Welcome back, YouTube. I'm Josh Sussman.
And I'm Jacob Sussman.
And this is
What's Cooking?
This week we will be making a banana sour cream cake.
We're in the kitchen. We're almost ready to go. To make the banana sour cream cake, you will need 2 cups of flour, a bag of semi-sweet chocolate chips, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 2 cups of sugar, 2 eggs, 2 bananas, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 1/2 cup of milk, and 1.5 teaspoons of vinegar with a stick of butter.
Okay, so we're going to preheat the oven on convection to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Alright, so let's get started. So we have our flour, and now we're just going to start measuring our dry ingredients. So this is 1 cup. We're going to need 2 cups of all-purpose flour. Just want to make sure to tap it out with a knife. Okay, 1 cup. Now our 2nd cup of flour. This is all-purpose flour. Just so you know. 2 cups of flour. Alright. Okay, so 1 teaspoon of baking soda. Okay. Now 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Now you want to really be sure to be very exact when you're baking because it could throw off the whole cake if your measurements are off. Okay, so now we're just going to put in 1/4 teaspoon of salt with that. Now you always want to do this over something because you don't want to make a big mess. Okay, so that looks better. So the salt, obviously, the salt is just going to bring out the sweetness in this cake, which is kind of funny because it's not very sweet. So, okay, so now we're going to put in our softened butter into here. And this is what they call creaming the butter. Get all that butter in there. And we're going to put in 2 cups of sugar. Okay, so that's 1 cup of sugar in. I'm going to start beating this on medium speed, pretty high. And then our 2nd cup of sugar is really getting there. Just like this more. And our 2nd cup of sugar. Just a little pinch. Extra. Okay, so we're going to cream that up. Okay. Alright, now we're going to need to work in 2 eggs. Okay. We're going to put in 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract into here for some flavoring. And we're going to need our bananas, of course. Make sure you get really ripe bananas, because that is really the key to this. If you don't have 2 really large bananas, you're going to probably want to do 3. So I just break it up as I put it in here. And there's a reason I like the whip attachment when I'm making this cake, is because it really does help to break up the banana. At this point, you really don't have to worry about overmixing mixing. So, just, you can kick up the speed if it looks like it's still chunky. Okay, so, it's starting to look like a banana sour cream cake right now. You want to get in all your flavor. So that's perfect. So now we're going to put in 1/2 cup of milk, which we're going to sour up. And you could also use some sour milk in place of this, but really whatever you like. I found that sour milk is a little better. Okay, 1/2 cup. And now maybe just a teaspoon or 2, teaspoon and a half probably, of just white vinegar to sour it up. Okay, that should do the trick. Just gonna have to let it sit for a second. You want to mix it up, and you smell it start to sour and thicken considerably. And that really is looking correct. So now we're just going to add that in. To our batter. And that's really looking great. Okay, now we're going to slowly add in our dry ingredients into here. And this is really the point where you do not want to overmix it. Because the flour really could end up being very bready if you overmix it. And you know, just let it work itself in. Just very slowly. Make sure it's all in. All incorporated. Alright, so that looks perfect. I'm just going to turn off the mixer for a minute and I'm going to scrape the sides. Just so we can get in all of our flour and sugar and deliciousness. Alright, so now this batter is really looking great. We're just going to open it up, take it out, and we're going to actually take this whisk attachment off and tap off the extra. Perfect. Stick this in the sink. And now we're going to fold in the best part, which are our semi-sweet chocolate chips. You can really put in milk chocolate chips, or you don't have to put in any if you don't like it. I happen to think it's really great. Just put in whatever looks right. I think that actually that looks perfect. Okay. So, I'm just going to fold that in, see how it looks. If you need to add in more, you know, you always can do that. That's no big deal. Just gotta be a little bit of our flour. Now, isn't that batter looking delicious? I have to tell you, this is the greatest cake ever. So delicious. I think that looks perfect. Alright, so now we're just going to grease up our butter pan. So it doesn't stick. It's gotta come out. Or else, why did you make the cake? Okay, so just spread this out a little bit. You really want to grease it well. With a sticky, sticky batter. That really looks perfect. Okay. So, just evenly spread it because it is a really thick batter. Just turn your bunt dish, bunt pan. Oh my gosh, so good, so delicious. I'm gonna get every last drop of it. Spread it out nice and evenly. Now we're going to put the cake in the oven at 350 degrees for approximately 45 to 55 minutes. So we're just going to set the timer. 45. Alright, now that's going to come out and look golden brown and delicious. And now the cake is all done and it just smells delicious. It's perfectly golden brown. And now we just have to test it with a toothpick to make sure that it's fully done, just to make sure. If the toothpick comes out clean, that means that the cake is ready. So let's just give it a test. And it's perfect. Enjoy!
Allow the cake to cool for about 30 to 45 minutes before taking it out of the bundt pan. And as always, we'll see you next week.